Hello, everybody. It's the old bear from the old bear's den of Bigfoot. And, um, well, it looks like our guest has misplaced his link. If you're still here, Miss Mullets, click on the link that's in the chat. And it'll bring you to the backstage, and I'll bring you on. Anyway, supposed to have Miss Mullets on here, and I'm hoping he gets here soon. Sorry to say something don't know what it is. But anyway, as you know, we recently, so I'm going to ad lib this. What? He made it. So we're going to bring him on. Without further ado, we're going to bring on our guest. Get ready for a good one, guys. This will be fun.
What's going on?
How we doing, buddy? Not
Doing
much.
wonderful.
So, how was your day?
It was pretty good, pretty good. And I didn't do much. I've been busy for the last month and a half. And I said, I'm going to take this weekend off and only talk to Old Bear.
Well, I'm glad you came on.
I'm glad
I'm glad.
I'm glad to be here.
So, as you know, this is a Bigfoot channel,
Yep.
and I did an interview with you, a couple of them actually. They're due to come out next month. No big deal. Anyways, um, how do you feel about Bigfoot?
Well, I've had some interesting encounters.
Hmm.
Um, I've never seen him,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it. But I've had some interesting encounters. There's too many witnesses, too
Hmm.
many stories out there
Hmm.
for me to say that this doesn't exist. And then along with things I've seen, I haven't seen Bigfoot, but the things that I have seen, if they exist, Bigfoot has to exist. Has
Hmm.
to.
So, why don't you tell me a little bit about some experiences that you've had that's made you come to that conclusion?
So a little bit about me up until 2021.
Hmm.
I was a complete skeptic of anything paranormal.
Hmm.
So I had a a paranormal encounter on a ghost hunt.
Hmm.
And that opened my mind. I'm like, if this is real, what else is real?
Okay, where did
So,
you have the encounter at? You don't mind
uh,
telling us?
no, that's fine. We went to the Randolph County Infirmary in Winchester, Indiana,
Hmm.
and did a ghost hunt. And I had a poltergeist activity there. A rock was thrown at me from the dark. So, you know, like I said, if ghosts are real,
Hmm.
then what else is real? So then I started going down the podcast rabbit hole of, I've always kind of believed in UFOs. We can't be the only ones out there.
Hmm.
But I'm like, if ghosts are real, what about Bigfoot? You know?
Right.
So I started listening to different podcasts. I mean, I think a lot of people end up on listening to Sasquatch Chronicles and things like that. And
Yeah.
um it was on that show that the first time I ever heard the recording of the Ohio Howl. And when I heard it, all the hair on my body stood up because I heard that when I was a kid down in Tar Hollow State Park in Ohio.
Yeah.
Um, and then I started listening to all these other encounters, and I'm like, holy cow, all these things that I thought were just weird things that happened, when I was a kid, sound a lot like what you're hearing from all these different encounter stories.
Hmm.
So I'll tell a few of them. Like I said, at that time, I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. I can't give you an exact date when any of this happened. All I can do is give
Hmm.
you general. It happened between the ages of say 10 and 16.
Hmm.
'cause that was the time I was most active in horseback riding and camping down there,
Mhm.
and, um, so I don't even remember the order of this stuff that happened. It's just whenever I started listening to these things, like, "Holy cow," I remember this happening. So we'll start with the kind of the smaller ones. Um, one time we were riding, and there was this place that we rode all the time. It was called Rattlesnake Ridge, and
Mm,
the reason we called it that was they had done some logging on this hillside, and all the junk lumber and treetops and stuff that they didn't use, they had piled up alongside this. It was a good sized trail.
mhm.
Rattlesnakes, we have timber rattlers in Ohio. You know that, but a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize that Ohio does have rattlesnakes.
Yes, it does.
Um, timber rattlers had built dens in some of that bramble and discarded wood and stuff. So that was the reason we called it Rattlesnake Ridge. But we were
Okay.
riding, and it was one of those days where it was like 95, 100 degrees, and anybody that rides horses, when it's that hot, your horses don't wanna do anything but walk. They are just plodding along, and they can't wait for you to take a break, and get off their backs. And the other thing about horses is if they've ridden a trail, you know, a bunch of times, they remember where you usually pull off to take a break.
Mhm.
So right up on Rattlesnake Ridge, um, there's this real nice wide spot with some nice overhanging shade from the trees and stuff where we would always
Mhm.
stop and give the horses a break. Well, as we approached this area, we rode into this like wall of stench, and um it was that typical, garbage, wet dog, rotten meat smell.
Mhm.
And like I said, the horses had just been walking all day. And we get to that spot and we try to pull the horses over, and they don't want to stay there. Like they're doing circles, like we got to get out of here.
Mhm.
And finally, my grandpa, that's who I rode with, my grandparents. And my
Right.
grandpa was kind of the trail master, if you want to call him that.
Yeah.
Uh, he he's like, well, obviously they don't want to stay and it stinks here. Let's move on down the trail. We get, I don't know, half mile down the trail, stench is gone. I mean, as quick as we went into it, it we got out of it. And then the horses were fine. They pulled over, and they weren't, like, we tried to get off our horses. They were doing circles. Like they didn't want to stop. So we had to try to get back on and go up the trail, but we went up the trail and they were fine.
Mhm.
Like I said, just weird. I don't know if that was Bigfoot or not. My grandpa always said, "Well, rattlesnakes stink. Their dens stink. That's probably what we were smelling." But they don't smell like that, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of that musky, you know? They don't smell like garbage and rotten meat and stuff like that? So, okay, that was just a weird thing. Then there was another time, um, like I said, I was a kid. This
Mhm.
before I turned 16. So,
Right.
this incident, I would say I was probably around 13 or 14. Um, the adults like to indulge in adult beverages when we drank. So,
Mhm.
and me being the only one who's underage, I didn't drink. So a lot
Mhm.
of times when we would ride, I'd get bored. Um, you know, our breaks would take longer and longer and longer while they finished their beer
Right.
or whatever.
Right. Right.
So this one time, they had started early. I mean, I'm talking 10:30 they started,
Mm.
and, um, we'd only been riding maybe, I don't know, we usually leave about 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd been riding maybe 2.5 hours,
Right.
and we they were really indulging that day. So I was bored. Well, there's this one woman that was with us, and she had way too much at that point. I think she drank on an empty stomach, whatever.
Mhm.
She needed to go back to camp. And I'm like, "Pick me. I'll take her back. You guys just keep going." I'd been riding down there for years. I knew all these trails and stuff.
Yeah.
So she and I take our horses and we start riding back. Like I said, we'd only been out for if we'd been riding hard and not taking so many breaks, we were probably only 45 minutes from camp.
Right.
Uh, but so we had to ride. We'd just come down this big hill. So we had to ride back up this hill. And we get to kind of the base of that hill, and it was that same smell. Just that rotten meat, wet dog, just rank smell. And I hear the woman, she's behind me. I hear her say, "What the F is that?" And at the time, I'm thinking, she thinks this, she's smelling the same thing I am. Well, about that time, both of our horses bolt and they are running up this hill. And anybody who rides horses knows you don't, it's not like the movies. You don't run your horses up hills. They can get hurt, they can get gassed halfway up. It's not safe for the horses to run up these steep hills.
Right.
So, I'm trying to rein my horse in, and you can't, there was no stopping it. Both horses, they got to get out of there. We get to the top of the hill, finally able to get the horses stopped and get off of them. I mean, they're breathing heavy and, sweat running off of them. But both of them have turned and are looking down the hill with their ears perked up. Can't smell anything anymore, but they did stop. But the entire time, like we stood up there for like 10 or 15 minutes, they were like nickering and looking down the hill.
Yeah.
And finally, once I felt they'd had enough of a break, we rode on. Nothing else happened.
Okay.
So like I said, two really weird things. But as I look back on that, I'm not sure she didn't see something that day because she said, "What the F is that?" Not what is that smell?
Right.
You know, Unfortunately, she was very intoxicated. And I mean, when we got back to camp, I had to help her into her camper. I mean, that's that's how bad she was. So I don't even know if
Mm.
she would even remember any of this at this point or not. And like I said, that was 30 something years ago. All this stuff
Right.
happened before, I'll say 1992. So I have no clue how to get a hold of this woman. I don't even know if I know her real name. But anyway, um, so yeah, those were two small things that kind of happened. Um, and then, like I said, hearing all the stories about the smell that people encounter, how it's like a wall. You get into it and then you get right out of it like it's some kind of like bubble or something like that. That's exactly what I experienced both times. Um, so then we hang on, let me get a drink. My grandparents, they had one of those old Winnebago motorhomes,
Yeah.
and me being the kid, I had to sleep in that loft above the captain's chairs, you know?
Yeah. I know exactly how you felt.
Right? And that thing gets so hot in the summertime. I mean, it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
you open the windows or whatever, it's just hot up there.
Yeah.
And
It's rather
m
stuffy.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
sweating. Yeah, that's nasty. Yeah.
Right, and, Tar Hollow's Horseman's Camp's primitive. There's no showers or anything. You take your showers
Yeah.
down in the creek, or you take little spit baths down in the creek, you know?
Right. Right.
Um, so so a lot of times, if we'd listen to the radio, and if it wasn't supposed to rain, I would, um, I would make a bed in the horse trailer, put out bales of hay, put a tarp
Mhm.
over it, bring out a blanket and a pillow, and I just sleep in the horse trailer because it was like those old stock trailers where it's got the open slits on the side, nothing
Yeah.
fancy. So, there's one night, I'm sleeping out there, and I wake up, and I hear, like, this thumping sound. It's like thump, thump. And my first thought was, when horses get thirsty, they'll paw at the ground.
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, one of the horses is thirsty. It's out there digging. If I don't get up and take him down to the creek, I'm going to hear this all night. And like I said, we start riding at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I throw my blanket off and I grab my flashlight. And as soon as I turn my flashlight on, something outside the horse trailer takes off. And it's like running through trees. Not a little like running through the brush, the underbrush and stuff. I mean, I'm hearing trees like limbs cracking and stuff as this thing is taking off through the woods. There's a small creek that was right behind us where we normally camped.
Yeah.
And you've been down in that area. A lot
Yeah.
of the a lot of
Multiple
the
times.
s- yeah, a lot of the creeks and stuff, they have flat sandstone, like
Yeah.
sandstone rocks and stuff. You could A ninja couldn't walk down that thing without being hurt. I mean, every step
Yeah.
you take, I mean, those rocks are sliding on each other and everything
Yep.
else. In that area, I mean, it varies, but I would say the creek is maybe 20 to 30 feet wide. I heard whatever this
Yeah.
was. I mean, I'm talking a creek bed. The creek itself wanders. It's usually only 4 or 5 feet wide, but, it wanders and stuff like that. But, and it's not very deep. But whatever this thing was that took off running, it made one step. I heard those rocks one time,
Mhm.
and then I heard the branches and stuff breaking on the other side of the creek as this thing, like, tore off, and I'm saying it sounded like somebody driving a vehicle through the woods, you know, and it just it, ran off, and then I didn't hear anymore.
Mhm.
And at the time, I'm thinking, that had to be the biggest effing buck in on the planet. Because again, I don't believe in Bigfoot, and
Right.
I'm not thinking Bigfoot, I'm thinking what else could be running through the woods like that? But looking back, man, that it didn't sound like a deer running, you know? And then that
Okay.
thumping sound,
Yeah. So let
you
me
know?
ask you this question real quick.
Yeah.
When you heard it hit those rocks, did it sound like 1 foot or 2 sets of hooves that hit
1, 'cause it
1
it was
foot?
like it was like one crunch, and in my mind, I'm thinking, "Okay, the deer jumped into the middle and then straight back out." But even then, it didn't sound it just I heard one, like, crunch in the middle of that, and then it went out. But at the time, I'm not thinking a person or, something bipedal.
Mhm.
In my 12 or 13-year-old mind, it's gotta be a deer. That's the only thing down there that could run that fast and, could make that 15 feet into the center and 15 feet out.
Right.
That's the only thing in my mind that made sense. But when that hindsight kicks in and you start replaying that stuff in your mind, it's like, "No, that was only one crunch." On those rocks. So, yeah, I mean, at 13, I'm not thinking bipedal or quadrupedal. I'm just thinking it's a big freaking deer.
Mhm.
And then when I got up and I took the horses down there, they didn't wanna stay down there, they're twisting, trying to get back up to camp. None of them were thirsty, so it wasn't one of them horses out there pawing. I I always wondered if I had been sleeping on the ground rather than in the horse trailer with the tires and everything else, would I have been able to feel, that thumping sound? Because that's what woke me up, was that thumping sound.
Mhm.
It wasn't horses nickering or, any kind of animal sounds. It was just that thump. So, again, I didn't see anything,
Right.
but it sounds a lot like what you hear, you know? when they take off through the woods, you hear trees crashing, and you know, I don't know, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, and then there was a guy who rode down there, and he had told us that he had seen Sasquatch down there. But we all made fun of him because again, Bigfoot's not real.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, now it would be a different story, but we're talking late '80s, early '90s in Ohio,
Mhm.
and, you don't have all the information you have now. There was no podcast, there was no Finding Bigfoot or anything like that. Yeah, I have been back, not since I come to the realization that these things could exist. That is one of the things I'm kinda planning for next year. I would like to go down there and, kind of film where everything happened.
Mhm.
And, Tar Hollow has, primitive camping up by the fire tower, which that comes into my next story, but,
Mhm.
I think there's, like, 8 primitive camp spots up there. I'd like to go up there and throw up my hammock and spend the night up there.
You sure you wanna do a hammock?
I can't sleep on an air mattress.
I'm just saying, you sure you wanna be in something that they like to rub against?
Well,
Do you want a Bigfoot
may
to
may
rub your head? Is that what you're trying to get?
maybe I wanna be a Bigfoot burrito.
That's a death wish. I may have to speak to your better half.
She's probably watching right now. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so no, I haven't been back there looking for Bigfoot, let's put it that way. I have visited there over the past 30 years a couple times, um, but knowing what I know now, I have not been back there since then. So,
Mhm.
um, so then the other big event, and I alluded to it before, is hearing the Ohio howl.
Mhm.
Again, hot night, sleeping in a horse trailer, and, I'm I know the time on this, I can't tell you the date. The only
Mhm.
reason I know the time on this is because when I woke my grandpa up, he yelled at me for waking him up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But, so anyway, I'm asleep, and I wake up to what sounds like the weirdest tornado siren I've ever heard in my life. Because it wasn't like a normal tornado siren. It was like, tornado siren starts high, goes low, goes high, goes low,
Mm.
just up and down, up and down. This thing started low, went high, and then just cut off. And then it would be silent for, I don't know, a couple minutes. So I wake up and I'm hearing this siren sound. And, when you first wake up, it's like, what is that? And it cut off. And I laid there for a minute and I was like, I don't know, maybe I dreamt it, whatever. So I'm trying to go back to sleep and I hear it again. I can't tell you exactly how long it lasted. In my mind, in my memories, it seemed like it
Mhm.
lasted for like 30 seconds. I don't know if it did or not. Just memory seems like it was like 30 seconds long. Who knows?
Well, how hell it lasts that long. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I hear it again. And this time I'm like, now wait a minute. Where the horseman's camp is in Tar Hollow, the closest town by car is like 20 minutes. And that's
Mhm.
Londonderry, Ohio.
Mhm.
This sound is coming from the wrong direction. It's coming more from like the center of the park. So I'm thinking, okay, the only thing that's kind of in that area is the fire tower that I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Well, maybe they have a tornado siren up there. You know, I've never seen one up there. I've climbed that thing several times. Used to, you'd be able to climb all the way to the top and, look
Mhm.
around, but I don't know if you still can or not, probably not. But I was like, I don't remember seeing anything like a tornado siren up there, but it cut off again. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. Happens a third time. So I'm like, okay, if this is a tornado siren, I've got to get up and I've got, we're in campers,
Right,
motorhomes and pull behind trailers and truck campers and stuff like that. If this is a tornado, I need to wake everybody up. So I get up, get my shoes on, I go out. By the time I get everything, by the time I make the decision, get my shoes on, it's stopped again.
right.
So I'm going back out. Before I get inside the camper, I hear it a fourth time. So I
Well,
go in the camper and I'm trying to find the radio. So I want to turn on the radio and see if, there's any kind of storm, whatever, nothing. I find the radio, nothing. And when I'm looking for the radio, my grandpa, he hears me come in and he looks at his watch, why are you waking me up at 2 o'clock in the morning? I'm like, well, I think I hear a tornado siren and I want to make sure I want to listen to the radio. So we listen to the radio, nothing. And he looks at me, you dreamt it, go back to bed.
mm,
So I did. Because again, I've never heard the Ohio Howl before. Never
right.
heard. I'm not thinking Bigfoot. It was just one of those weird things that happened to me. So yeah,
So at the point that you heard that, and you go in the camper, and your grandpa says you dreamt it, go back to bed. Do you think he knew what was going on? Do you think he may have heard it?
I don't know that he heard it that night.
Right. I'm not
My
saying at night, but before.
my grandpa grew up in Eastern Kentucky,
Mhm.
uh, very near Daniel Boone National Forest.
Oh, he's heard it.
I kind of wonder, and I can't ask him. He passed
I
away in
understand.
2012.
Yeah.
Um, but he was a very no nonsense type of guy.
Right.
Um, that he didn't have time for, you know, funny business or, I mean, he was one of those guys. He come home, grandma had supper on the table. He hurried up and ate, did his chores, come in, turn on the news, and you don't bother him, you know. And if there was work to be done, you do the work. It's not playtime. He didn't calm down until I had kids of my own, and then all of a sudden he became the fun grandpa. But I go over to pick up my kids, and he's watching SpongeBob. It's like, who are you?
Hmm.
But
What'd
I
you
mean,
do
he
with
he
my
was
grandpa?
right, you know. So he was never the type to talk about anything like that. And
Mhm.
I mean, when that guy was telling the story about Bigfoot down there, um, I can't honestly say that I ever heard him make fun of the guy, but I never heard him defend him either. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people made fun of the guy because I'll tell that story real quick. I mean, it's third hand, but or second hand,
Mhm.
but one of the trails that we rode at least every other day while we were down there.
Mhm.
Um, Tar Hollow, for those who are watching that have never been down there, much like Hocking Hills, not quite as pretty, but it's still, foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Um, Real steep ridges and deep, deep valleys, whatever you want to call them. And a lot of those, a lot of those valleys, they hold water a lot of the times just because there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
Um, there's one area between these two ridges. Um, it's always wet. This is where he said he saw this thing. He was riding with his dog, and he lived in the area, so he would ride the trails by himself a lot. Um, but he and his dog were riding along through there, and he smelled something, and his dog took off into that swampy area. Um, he looks over and he sees the creature, and he's yelling for his dog. His dog finally comes back, and they take off. Um, he said that his dog was covered in some kind of like green slime that stunk like what he was smelling. Now, whether I, I kind of think maybe the dog got into that swampy area and that was what the green slime was, like algae and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Now, as far as the smell, I don't know. But that was what he reported. I do know that no matter how much people made fun of him for the story, he never recanted it. He, he saw it,
Right.
and when we would ride that area, he would never ride that area alone by himself anymore. But if he was with like us and he rode through that area, um, it wasn't a walk. He wasn't walking through that area. He was pushing us.
Hmm.
We got to go. We got to go. We got to go.
Right.
So I don't know. Now, had he told me that story, I'd have been taking notes and asking him if he saw any details of the face or anything like that. But again, I didn't believe in Bigfoot at the time, so missed opportunity, I guess.
Well, that happens. I mean, a lot of people are skeptical of Bigfoot, and I get it. A lot of people, they go out and they'll go horse riding or they'll go bike riding or they'll go hiking and they never see anything. That doesn't mean that Bigfoot ain't standing there watching you as you go past.
Right.
And if you're not in tune with the sounds of the woods, or you're just riding or walking or hiking through the woods, and you don't notice that the birds and the crickets and everything is just stopped. You're not gonna stop and look. That Bigfoot might be standing there 20 feet from you, looking at you around the tree, and you can clearly see the head, but it doesn't register in your head that there was something looking at me. You saw it out of your peripheral. You didn't look. You didn't
Yep.
turn and go, "Oh crap!" And that happens. It's something that goes on. I mean, there's a lot of daytime sightings throughout the year. People catch a glimpse because it thinks it got seen. They don't notice the ones that are still standing there looking out, going, "What are you doing?"
Right. Right.
So it
And I
happens.
think that I think that if you're not even open to the fact that these things exist, um, or that the paranormal exists, I think mentally you have blinders to it. You're not going to see it unless it's right in front of your face. Um, your mind's going to say, "Nope, that didn't happen. That didn't happen over there," and you're just going to see what's right in front of you because your mind is already programmed to ignore what you don't believe in.
Yeah. Uh, so tell us a little bit about your channel.
So, so Meth Camp is not my real name. I don't know if everybody realized that that might be a fake name. Um,
Mhm,
my real name is John Fike. Um, I started my online content creation as purely comedy, and I created
mhm,
this whole um, persona of this ladies' man from the '80s named John Methenkamp, and
mhm,
he has a mullet. So um, I started doing all these comedy videos, and then late or last summer, as in 2024,
mhm,
um, we liked to primitive camp. That's where I was talking about being in a hammock and stuff like that.
mhm.
We were out at my family's farm camping. My wife had went to bed, and I set up my camera, and I'm like, I'm gonna do a live on TikTok, and I decided to just start asking people for their paranormal encounters. You know, I've been listening to
Okay.
these. podcasts and stuff like that, and it took off. Like, people loved it. And after camping season stopped, we stopped camping out there when deer season starts. So, it started getting colder. I started doing it on my couch, just asking people for their paranormal encounters, and then,
Right.
I went to the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree, um, the first one, that was in 2024,
Mhm.
and I met the guys from Nevermore Hollows
Mhm.
podcast, and they had come into my live a couple times, and Alan over there was like, "Dude, just start a podcast. You're doing all the work. Just record it and start a podcast. You're getting all these people coming in." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I can try this." So I tried doing. I was going to separate Meth Camp from the paranormal, and I started doing my lives without the mullet. And the first question everybody would ask, "Where's the mullet?" So I'm like, "Okay, mullet stays." And I'm like, "Okay, now I need a name for my podcast." And it just rolled off my tongue, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. So now, I used to do only um, live shows, but now I do
Mhm.
mainly one-on-one interviews, private interviews, because a lot of people, they're too nervous to do it live. Um, so the majority of what I do is private one-on-one interviews.
Mhm.
And then every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I do a live on Facebook and YouTube where I schedule guests. It's not quite the radio call-in show that I used to do, but we talk about anything paranormal. I do have a heavy emphasis on cryptids, Bigfoot, things like that.
Mhm.
But I do enjoy hearing a really good ghost story. I do really enjoy UFO encounters. I've had everything from demonic attacks to um, you know up close and personal Bigfoot encounters, which you're going to hear a lot of here in a couple weeks because Old Bear is on my show for 2 episodes, and he's coming on my live. I think the second.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're going to hear a lot of Old Bear in the month of November. I can tell you that.
Um, Pick Your Nose was, asking a question.
Where would you look for them during hunting season?
Yeah.
I personally, I wouldn't want to be in the woods in Ohio during deer hunting season. I can tell you that. Not walking around, you know, one if you maybe if you're wearing orange, you might be okay. But some of these rednecks down there, they're not gonna be too happy you walking through their hunting area. You might get at least a warning shot at you. I'm just saying.
Well, that can happen, yeah. I've bigfooted in hunting season here in the state of West Virginia and Ohio, and,
I
yeah,
guess if it
that
was
can
on
happen.
private property, it'd be a little different. But like going to state land or federal land, I'd be leery of doing that.
Well, it's I've found over the years that if you go bigfooting on any property, during a hunting season that you have a lot of hunters out, the Bigfoot tend to hold up during the day. And then in the evening, they, late, all the hunters are leaving. 99% of your hunters leave at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they get back to the car and it's not dark when they get back.
Right. And even
You
the
know,
ones that
you,
do, they have to be out half hour after sunset anyway.
right. The laws dictate, when these guys have to be out of the woods.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, the Bigfoot start moving, they get up right around dusk and they'll start moving around. And if they hear a gunshot and it's near to them and they can smell blood, they'll go find that gut pile or whatever and they'll raid the gut pile. It's not always coons and possums and skunks and all that get in the gut pile. Uh, when I was
I
in
think it's more than just gut piles. I think a lot of times, how many times you hear these hunters, "Man, I know I got a lung shot or a heart shot on that thing.
mhm,
I tracked it, found this big pool of blood that it should have bled out there, and
mhm.
there's no animal." So,
Well, we discussed that a little bit, and, you know what happened to me. I told you about it,
yes,
but
sir.
everybody's gonna have to wait for it to come out on this channel.
Yeah, let me look that up when you're scheduled. I don't have it off the top of my head here. Let's see, November.
And while you're looking that up, I wanted to tell you that I apologize for last weekend missing, your show tape,
No
and,
problem.
when bosses
Looks like
call
you're
and
the
say,
week
"I
of the
need help,"
12th.
the 12th? Okay,
Yeah, that's what it looks like is week of the 12th is your episode. And right now
okay,
you're scheduled for the 12th and the 15th. So your first episode will
mhm,
be on the 12th and then your second episode will be on the 15th.
okay. So, now everybody knows when I'm coming out on your channel, and they have to go to your channel and watch it.
That's right. And you can find me here on YouTube. You can find me on most your podcast players. Hopefully by then I will be on Apple Podcast. I am not currently, but I'm working into it right now. So that's the
Good.
last one I need to get on.
So, I'm gonna ask you this question,
Mhm.
and it's a question I've asked a lot of people, over the years, being on YouTube, and, you're kind of the quintessential person to ask this question. What do you think your reaction is going to be when you first see a Bigfoot up close and personal? Let's say 20, 30 feet.
I think first, um, the first thought that's going to go through my mind is I knew it. I freaking knew it.
Mhm.
The second reaction is going to be, oh shit, that thing's that close. Um, um, I might need to get out of here. Um, and do I have a change of underwear?
I didn't say that. Uh, yeah, that's kind of the reaction that a few very good friends have had. Um, they've got, water dripping down their pants leg,
Mhm.
or one guy rode in the back of the truck on the way home.
I think we talked
He
about
was
that one.
not getting in my truck. Uh, so yeah, that's happened to guys that I know very well that are, um, say they're not afraid of nothing, but they get screamed at in the dark, or they hear the, samurai chatter, as people call it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it unnerved him. He got we were out just being stupid, just, "All right, fine, let's go out, let's go bigfooting," is what he said to me. And, he'd had a couple of beers. I guess that gave him a little bit of courage, and we went out, and, I did a howl, and it's pretty close to the Ohio howl, and we got an immediate response from about less than 100 yards away,
Holy
uh,
cow.
somewhere around 90 yards, 80 yards, and he said, "All right, that's enough. Let's go back." And when he said that, I got a whiff of him And I said, "Dude, you didn't." He said, "Shut up. Let's go to the truck."
So
We walked.
that's a warning to everybody that's gonna go out bigfooting. Make sure you use the bathroom first.
Well, make sure you don't drink beer,
Oh, that
or
could be
any
too.
alcohol before you go. But yeah, he rode in the truck all the way home.
Yeah,
He wasn't getting in the front seat of my truck.
absolutely not.
But so you know, next year uh, we're planning on having some campouts. Um, and I've asked you this, but you never answered. Would you like to come to one of the campouts with me and the other Bigfooters that go to it? It's like that.
Absolutely. I think you invited me to one, a couple weeks ago, and I
Hmm.
was already I was set up at the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah,
but
we had
yes,
one a few weeks ago. Yes.
yes, absolutely. I would be honored to come out,
Well, we'd love to have you. Uh,
and I might even take my mullet off for it.
well, that's up to you. I'm not touching that one. That's
I'm
up
bringing
to
my
you.
hammock though.
Well, I think we can set you up between a couple of trees for the
Mhm.
hammock,
Yeah.
and we'll set you up in a good spot, maybe in a crossing.
Okay.
And if you get touched, just hope that it ain't a female. That's all I can say.
Maybe I want to.
Well, if you want to, then you might have to deal with her husband.
That's true.
I'm just
That's true.
saying.
That's true.
Some strange things have happened when we've been at Salt Fork. This past year, camper got pushed. Um, two campers, a camper got pushed, and then a van camper got pushed. Just that nudge where he kind of rocks you a little bit.
You
Um,
wait a minute, you that just made me think of something that happened down at Tar Hollow. There was a guy he was complaining about, he thought people were rocking his trailer at night because he got up the next morning, said he didn't sleep because somebody was over there rocking his trailer, and we thought it was just somebody playing a prank on him. That makes me wonder now. Huh.
well, back in August when we had to camp out uh, around my birthday time, a gentleman that goes by the name of Icebox, him and his wife were in their camper. Now it's a single axle pull behind camper. It's not one of these huge fifth wheels or the huge double axle pull behinds. It's a 20-footer or an 18. I
Dirt
can't
Rose said
remember
that
which it
camper
is.
was mine.
Yeah, yeah, that's him. That's
Okay.
Icebox. Um, and his camper got nudged, and it woke him up when he got nudged. And then around 4 o'clock in the morning, uh, I woke up and noticed that somebody was sitting outside, and it was one of the other Bigfooters that were there. And I went out and we sat down and started talking. And about 15, 20 minutes into it, we're sitting there around, we're building the campfire back up. Oh, good Lord. The stench that, and I looked at him and I went, "Did you just, And he's like, "No, I thought it was you." And I said, "No, it wasn't me." And he's like, "Oh God, that stinks." We actually moved away from the fire because the stench was blowing right between Dirt Road's camper and my camper.
Wow.
And we kind of both looked at each other and it was like, Oh, we know what that is. Gosh, it was bad. So yeah, it was an interesting year. We didn't have sightings this year. We had uh scent. We heard some uh couple of very questionable sounds coming from the woods. Um, and we saw some eye shine this year. And let's see, what else was it? One gentleman said he heard something walking around his tent in October. And yeah, it was interesting. Um, but, you know, a few years ago, my wife saw three little ones there in the group camp area. And then we seen a large female, and you definitely knew she was a female. Uh, and then the night after we seen the little ones and the female, we had a big male come in and start stomping its foot. Because of my wife, Mrs. Bear, um, she made me get up and do what they call the constipated hillbilly call, which is close to the Ohio howl. And it ticked the big male off. And he come in stomping and growling at everybody. And everybody kind of got up and moved to this side of the campground and left me over here with my wife sitting beside me. So
Wow.
yeah, it
Yeah, I'd
was
absolutely love to go.
eventful.
You do those in Salt Fork every time or
Yeah.
yeah? You know, my I think I was over there one time as a kid to horseback ride. We normally did most of our riding down in Tar Hollow and Hocking Hills, but my
Hmm.
grandparents, after I stopped riding, they spent a lot of time over there. So, yeah, I would love to come over and spend the weekend with you guys.
Well, you'd be more than welcome to come, and you probably will gain a few pounds while you're there.
I'm trying to lose weight, man.
Well, you might as well just leave your diet at home.
I can do that for a weekend.
Um, we're thinking bacon, sausage, biscuits for morning breakfast. Now, I'm not talking that bacon that you find at some very nice establishments that, you know, like maybe Wendy's or Burger King or McDonald's. We're talking bacon that has some thickness to it, and
I like them thick.
then you'll get all the sausage you can handle, 20 pieces, 30 pieces of sausage at a whack at a breakfast, 2.5 to 4 pounds of bacon of the morning. Um,
What's everybody else gonna eat?
don't worry, they know how to push their way in, and
Dirt Road says he's not cooking next year.
oh hush, Dirt Road, you know as well as I do. If you're called to cook, you're going to cook. But you know, we have dinners. Usually it's hamburgers, hot dogs. Sometimes we do ribs, um, pork chops, chili, stuff like that for dinners. So
Sounds good
you're
to me.
more than welcome to eat with the rest of us, and we'd love to have you come.
Absolutely.
And it's really cheap. It's $5 a person per night.
I can handle that.
You know, there's no showers there. You can go to the park and get a shower.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with that. You just go over the park, over the marina, and go down and use the showers down there. And you know, I carry an extra 40 gallons of water. Plus, my camper holds 54 gallons. So we're usually set for water, and we try to have a very good time. We go out bigfooting at night. Um, we may sit around a campfire. We might have a speaker. We're not completely sure what we're going to do in the spring. If you want to come in the spring, you're welcome. We're going to
Yeah.
try to get
Send
a
me the
date
dates.
to get it set up.
Send me the dates,
Um,
and I'll see what's available.
okay. And then I've been for the last couple of years. I've been asked if I want to go down to the LBL. I'd love to go by. I'd love to go down there and go bigfooting. Um, but I'm not going alone. Not just me and the
Right.
wife. I'm not making that mistake. Um, and I personally think that would be a mistake that we may not come back from.
Right.
Um,
Too many stories
because
from there. Not just a Bigfoot.
yeah, and but we'd love to have you and your wife come camp with us. Um, just bring yourselves and some change of clothes and come and have fun.
We can do that. Even if she doesn't want to, I'll be there.
Oh no,
I'm
she
sure
has to.
she'll
She
want
has
to
to.
come. She'll
Yeah.
want to come. Unless she has to work on Saturday, but yeah. She'll she'll want to come. If we know in advance, I'll make sure she comes.
Okay. Yeah, because we want it to be a family atmosphere. Husbands and wives. If you got kids, bring the kids. We'll
All my
we'll
kids are
watch
grown.
over everybody. Oh well, you know we watch over all the kids when they come, no matter how old the kids are. So we watch out for everybody. We make sure everybody's well fed. We make sure everybody's safe, and we hope that they learn something when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will be there at one of them. I can tell you that.
Well, we can
If
we
not
can
more.
train you how to do house.
Okay. I've been trying to train my wife, and she won't do it. She won't do it in the woods. She only does it in the shower.
I'm not touching that one. I'm gonna leave that in there.
If you watch my show, especially my lives, my wife is
Um,
my moderator, and I do pick on her, and she's a
yes,
good
you
sport.
did.
She picks right back. So I love my wife. I do make fun of her, but I love my wife.
Um, but I mean, I believe you'd fit right in with the rest of us, and you'd have a good time.
Yeah, I'm looking
And you
forward
never
to it.
know, you might get a sighting while you're there because they do roam around the park quite a bit.
I hope so. I really do. I do want to see Bigfoot. It's one
You-
of the few cryptids that I do want to see.
well, I understand that, but just remember, everything you want may not be what you figure out that you didn't want to see.
You're not wrong about that.
Seeing a Bigfoot has affected quite a few people that I've spoken to over the years. Truck
Yeah.
drivers, military, cooks, um, doctors, nurses, and it's it's. I've enjoyed every sighting I've had, but I guess I'm a special breed that is either totally crazy or
I wasn't
uh,
going to say
I will.
that.
Um, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm 100% sure that you can come and have fun. We don't get aggressive doing this. It's relaxed and laid back, and it's a fun time.
Sounds like my type of weekend.
So, um, tell everybody how to get onto your channel.
There you
Um, when this is posted, you can drop a link in it and I'll pin it. And that way everybody can have a link to either your YouTube or one of the other services that you're on.
go. Okay.
So just give a little bit, a little bit more about you and your channels and let everybody know how to get a hold of you. If they
All
want to come
right.
on and give a Bigfoot encounter or a ghost story or
Right. So the easiest way to find me, you can find me just about anywhere on at just search myths, monsters, and mullets. Facebook. Facebook's a good way to get a hold of me. I get the messages pretty quick. You can also email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Um, I'm on YouTube, most your podcast players. I'll be on Apple very soon. You can leave me a comment there. I'll try to get a way of getting you on the show if you want to come on. Um, right now I'm booked pretty much through the end of the year. I think I have one open date in November, but you know, I'm always taking guests, and I'll work around your schedule a little bit. We can do some stuff on the weekends, things like that. I'm looking for
Mhm.
guests for my live show on Sunday evenings. So if you want to come on and talk about an encounter live, we can do that. I do video podcasting, but if you're not comfortable being on video, I will do an audio podcast as well. So,
Mhm.
and I want to hear anything. I love Bigfoot. I love the cryptids, but like I said, I do like good UFO encounters, ghost stories, anything weird. So get a hold of me, mythsandmullets@gmail.com.
All right. Um, we've been here an hour, and sadly, I have to get up and go to work tomorrow
Sorry
at
to hear that.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Whew.
Want to trade?
Nope. Nope.
Man,
Not at all.
but um, John, I'm glad you came, and I think everybody should go over and check his channel out and subscribe to it. He's got a lot of videos that are coming up that are very interesting. Let's say.
Yeah. And if you
Um,
go over to Spotify, I am monetized over there, so you can become a subscriber.
mhm,
And I think it's the cheap package. It's like $3 a month. Um, you can watch everything without intros, without all the housekeeping stuff, no sponsor ads, anything like that. It just goes straight
mhm,
into the video. So if you want to, I would appreciate it. But if you do, and if you don't like hearing me talk at the beginning and at the end, you can get a little extra there for a couple bucks a month.
right. So, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for
I
having me.
will see you in a couple of weekends on a Sunday night,
That's right. That's right.
and keep in touch with me.
Yep.
And especially if you have a sighting between now and whenever, next spring, next summer, when you can make it, give me a shout. We'll bring you back on, and we'll let you tell everybody if you made a mess or not.
You'll be the first one to know if I poop my pants.
All right, buddy. Let me hop off
Hey,
here, and I'll end the show, and then I'll leave you in the backstage, and I'll come
alrighty.
back and we'll try to chat a little bit. All right,
All
bud.
right.
Well, everybody, that concludes tonight's show. Sorry, I know it's just an hour, and there's so many of you that were on here. Thank you all for coming. And as always, I say this at the end of every show. May God bless each and every one of you. May God watch over you and keep you in these days and times that we are going through now. Thank you for coming, guys. It's been a pleasure.